Psychologists often ask, what makes a human being capable of unspeakable cruelty? Is it madness, upbringing, or power unchecked? Modern forensic psychiatry tells us that serial sadists share common traits: lack of empathy, a hunger for control, and a chilling ability to mask horror behind charm. Most killers are eventually caught, their crimes exposed, and their names were recorded in the archives of prisons and courts. But what happens when the monster is a respected lady of society, hidden behind silks, chandeliers, and grand balls? What happens when her cruelty is carried out in secret rooms and her neighbors applaud her grace? This is the legend, not in a good way, the history and the haunting of Madame Delphine LaLaurie. She's low-key creeping me out. Ugh, I don't want to look. Hi, my name is Eva, and I tell stories where truth and nightmare blur together. But before we dive into this chilling story, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you would never miss a true horror story that reads like a nightmare. Grab your blanket, dim the light, and let's step into a story that feels too real for comfort. New Orleans is a city of masks. Behind the beauty, the music, and the Mardi Gras parades lived a lot of shadows. And in one of its grandest homes on Royal Street lived a woman whose name is still whispered with fear. Her wealth made her untouchable, and her cruelty made her infamous. And in 1834, a single fire ripped away the mask, revealing a house of horrors. Mary Delphine McCarty, later known as Madame LaLaurie, was born on March 19th, 1787, making her a Pisces. I'm not a Pisces, but I do love them. In New Orleans, while Louisiana was still under Spanish rule, she came from the powerful McCarty family, wealthy French Creole aristocrats tied to politics and the military. Delphine grew up surrounded by luxury and privilege in a society built on slavery. Her first marriage was just at 13. She was married to Don Ramon. He has a long name. I cannot pronounce all of it. He was a high-ranking Spanish officer. One day, on a voyage to Spain, tragedy struck. Ramon died, leaving Delphine behind, widowed with a daughter. She remarried in 1808 to Jean Blanc. I know I'm butchering it, but that's how it sounds in my head. He was a banker and a politician, a powerful mix. Together they had 4 children, but Blanc also died young in 1816. I'm seeing a pattern. By 1825, Delphine married her third husband, Dr. Leonard LaLaurie, and that's how she gets her last name, a much younger physician. She purchased property at 1140 Royal Street in 1831 and built a grand 3-story mansion with attached slave quarters. The house became a symbol for her social standing and later her infamy. Even before the fire, rumors clung to Madame LaLaurie's name. Neighbors whispered that her slaves appeared unusually thin, fearful, and mistreated. Records show that between 1830 and 1834, at least 12 enslaved people have died, and their death certificates listed no causes. One tale speaks of a young enslaved girl chased with a whip by Delphine on the rooftop. He's just incredibly psychotic. The child leapt to her death, though later sources dispute the details. Her story was told so many times that it became part of her legend. Regardless, New Orleans' elite ignored the rumors. She's one of them, so Delphine hosted lavish dinners, glittering balls, and her reputation was intact until the night of the fire. On April 10th, 1834, fire erupted in the kitchen of the LaLaurie mansion. Firefighters rushed in, and what they found shocked them to the core. A 70-year-old cook was chained to the stove and admitted later that she had set the fire because she could no longer bear her captivity. When rescuers searched the attic, they found enslaved men and women bound in chains. Some of them were wearing iron collars that held their heads in rigid positions. Others wore scars from whips, beaten beyond recognition. Newspapers described their horrific conditions and reported that some of the men and women were mutilated. And when news spread, a mob of enraged citizens stormed the mansion. They smashed furniture, tore down walls, and nearly destroyed everything. Understandably, understandably so. The LaLauries fled by carriage, narrowly escaping the crowd's fury, and the people of New Orleans were left with an empty shell of a house and the memory of screams. Delphine vanished that night, and witnesses saw her coach speed toward the Mississippi River docks. From there, she boarded a ship to Mobile, Alabama, and eventually sailed to Paris. Her mansion was once a jewel of the French Quarter in New Orleans, was left in ruins. By 1836, the writer Harriet visited the site and recorded stories from the neighbors who remembered the mob, the fire, and the enslaved survivors who were shown in public to prove their suffering. Delphine lived out her life in Paris, and letters suggested that she was considering returning to New Orleans, but she never did. She died in 1849, buried far away from the city whose name she had scarred. Well, during my research for this episode, I found a lot of facts and a lot of folklore. I do believe that she tortured people. Here's where the fact and the folklore blur. So the primary records confirm that there was a fire in April of 1834. Enslaved people discovered in chains, an angry mob, a public outrage, and the LaLauries fleeing to Paris. But the grotesque details, like mouths sewn shut, skulls split, and organs exposed, were retellings in later years. It's probably written decades later. I found some people say that those later retellings were sensational and were meant to shock tourists and, bring in the money basically. What is undeniable is the cruelty of slavery itself, and that Delphine LaLaurie basically abused her position of power and wealth to brutalize human beings. Whether the details were exaggerated or not, the horror remains. Today, the LaLaurie mansion is one of the most haunted houses in the world. Tourists flock to 1140 Royal Street, and they claim to hear screams, rattling chains, and seeing moving shadows in empty windows. The legend lives on in culture. So in American Horror Story Coven 2013, Kathy Bates, whom I love, portrayed Delphine LaLaurie as an immortal monster who is punished by her own cruelty. Paranormal shows like Portals to Hell have investigated the mansion. A feature film project about the mansion was announced in 2020 with Saw director Darren Lynn Bosman attached to it. And countless ghost tours in New Orleans retell her story every night. The mansion itself is still standing, though rebuilt. Over centuries it was a school, an apartment building, and a music conservatory. But it is forever tied to this monster's name. Walk past Royal Street and you might hear the echoes of those who lived and suffered, then died within the walls of the mansion. Not spirits of myth, but human beings whose cries still haunt history. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon, like this video, and share it with your friends if you feel like it. And let me know in the comments, what do you think about the story? When I started researching, it blew my mind. I hate her so much. Also, some weird happened while I was recording this video. I think I'm just exaggerating, but I don't know. I have the Harry Potter candles, the ones that you put batteries in and then it flickers with a wand. So it started flickering as soon as I started this story and I said her name multiple times. And then my microphone just decided to go silent on me and it wouldn't work. Thought it was worth mentioning, and I'm gonna share the clip, a tiny clip with you guys when the candles started flickering. I am filming a YouTube video. All of a sudden, the lights and the candles start flickering. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.